Hello F1 fans! There is plenty happening in the world of Formula One, and the first Grand Prix of the season will soon be upon us. Teams are unveiling their new cars, and they don't look like anything from the previous years because of the rule changes taking effect this year. As the new season is fast approaching, let us take you up to speed by looking at all the rule changes in detail. Hello, and welcome to our channel. Before we continue, a sub to the channel would be amazing, and hit the bell icon so you never miss out on more of our videos. Why is F1 changing? F1 fans are probably wondering why. After one of the most thrilling seasons in a long time is FIA completely overhauling its rules and cars. There are a few explanations for that. Traditionally, FIA have changed rules and regulations, mostly for the safety of drivers. As F1 cars keep getting faster and faster, the cars from the last era were the quickest ever, so it gets more and more difficult to make the sport as safe as possible. This may have been a factor for this year's revolution, although the main reason is that F1 wanted to move on from an era that has been dominated by Mercedes alone, while also providing fewer overtaking opportunities than hoped due to the weight, speed, and downforce of the cars. The new rules, which were initially planned for 2021 before being delayed due to the pandemic, are aimed at improving the show first and foremost, and F1 is hoping for close racing and plenty of excitement. What are the changes? The rule changes mean we have a completely new generation of cars. The concept marking one of the biggest technical changes in F1 history has been overhauled from recent years and is, in essence, a simplified, yet striking new-look race car following a drastic aerodynamics overhaul. Here's a rundown of the 2022 car regulations. Aerodynamics. As you know, one of the most important aspects of aerodynamics is to create downforce, sticking the car to the track and allowing drivers to go faster through corners. The problem with the old regulations was the dirty and hot air that was created in the wake of an F1 car meant any other car behind it would lose its own downforce and overheat. However, this has opened the door for the sport to return to something known as ground effect. Ground effect was popular back in the 70s and early 80s, before being banned in 1982. Ground effect in those days was essentially adding small aeroplane wings upside down to the car, using the air to suck the car to the track. F1 is not going back to the upside down wings, but the floor of the new cars will have wind tunnels that will work similarly, and the end product is expected to lessen the dirty air spitting out of the back of the cars and promote more wheel-to-wheel racing. The 2022 car has two long underfloor tunnels which create a ground effect, meaning there is more suction under the car to pull it to the tarmac, while also ensuring more of the downforce is generated from under the car. The new cars would have simplified front wing and end plate, with 4-element wing attached directly to the nose, transitioning into a much simplified single-piece end plate. This way, it will be far less sensitive to wake than previous designs. A sharp new rear wing. These not only look great, but the completely new parts on the 2022 cars have been designed to stop sending airflow outwards, narrowing it instead. The curved rear wing still has DRS, although it may be less impactful. The use of barge boards are outlawed. Flush wheel covers standardized to banish using the wheel axle to create downforce-inducing airflows. Front wheel deflector to limit outwash of airflow. Although the bodywork geometry of the car and engine cover will still differ from team to team, they will be defined within quite tight templates, which seek to create as clean airflow as possible. Limits placed upon brake duct shaping for downforce creation. The combined effect showed in simulation that the following car retains 86% of its maximum downforce when one car length behind the car in front under the new rules, compared to last year's cars, 55%. F1's analysis said a car that was 10 meters behind another lost as much as 47% of its downforce performance in 2021. Suspension wheels. New tire regulations. As part of the new technical regulations, the tire size has changed from 13 inches to 18 inches, which means new low-profile tires, but that has also gone hand in hand with new rules regarding their use. The first change is a rule that relates to the tire blankets that teams use to heat the tires when in the garage. Previously, the front tires could be heated to 100 degrees Celsius, but that drops to 70 C from 2022 onwards, while the rears were at 80 C, but now also dropped to 70 C. The intention is for these to be less temperature sensitive and allow drivers to push hard through stints, while still having a performance drop-off to make strategy interesting. The way the suspension is attached to the wheels has been simplified with the extended mounting points pioneered by Mercedes. This means the suspension must now be attached directly to the wheel hub. Hydraulic suspension is outlawed, meaning only the springs and dampers can control the stiffness. Inerter attached to the suspension are banned. A standard tire pressure sensor will be used to monitor the running conditions of tires. The running tire pressures are also likely to be lower because the smaller sidewall on the 18-inch tire makes it more robust, so teams have a whole new set of parameters to deal with, on top of the physical differences in the tires themselves. Wheel covers have returned for the first time since 2009. 18-inch tires with wheel winglets. Another throwback addition, the bigger tires, are aesthetically pleasing, while they should also improve the handling of the cars. The winglets have been added to help direct air away from the rear wing and limit the amount of turbulent air that will spit out the back of the car into the path of another. F1 zone simulations suggest this is going to have a massive impact on racing in 2022. A car that is 10 meters behind another is expected to only lose 18% of its downforce, meaning it can race closer for longer. Parts classification. Formula One components are now divided into a group of 5 different designations as part of a push to allow cost savings when it comes to parts not deemed to be performance differentiators. Listed parts remain the components a team must design and own the IP to. This includes any of the non-prescribed aero surfaces. Standard supply components are ones that are designed and manufactured by a designated supplier. This includes parts such as the fuel pump and tire pressure sensors. Transferable parts are those that can be supplied from one team to another, for example, the gearbox and hydraulic system. Prescribed parts are those the teams build themselves but to a set specification. Open source parts are free for teams to design to their own specification. However, the full design details must be made available to all other teams. Engines. The 1.6-liter V6 turbo engine rules remain largely the same, but the design of the power units will be homologated to the start of the season and be frozen up to the end of at least 2025. At least 10% of the fuel must comprise advanced sustainable ethanol, E10. Number 1. Frozen power units. The current hybrid power units have been part of Formula One for 8 years, and in that time, some incredible development has taken place. But with the new set of power unit regulations currently being finalized by the different manufacturers for a 2026 hybrid engine that will be sustainably fueled, an agreement was reached to freeze power units from 2022 onwards as focus moves to the future. Such a restriction will limit the resources needed to chase what are increasingly small gains, keeping costs down for customers at the same time as allowing work on the next generation of power unit to begin in earnest. That's not to say that any reliability problems that may occur will be locked in for the next 4 seasons, as manufacturers are allowed to apply to the FIA to carry out modifications for the sole purposes of reliability, safety, cost saving, or minimal incidental changes, while a number of smaller components are also excluded from the homologation restrictions. What will the changes do? So, by now you must be wondering what the changes will bring to the sport of Formula One. The new cars don't just look a lot different, but they should have a marked effect on the on-track product, with more exciting and competitive wheel-to-wheel racing the expectation. They are designed with a focus on the shifting the aerodynamic focus from the wings to underneath the car, making it easier to follow the car in front, and thus improving racing. F1's estimations are that the 2021 cars lost 35% of their downforce within 3 car lengths of the car in front, and almost 50% in a single car length. You may have heard the words dirty air. The new cars, they claim to drop those numbers to just 4 and 18%, respectively. They're relying a lot more on air passing underneath the car very quickly, which sucks the car down onto the ground, and gives what we like to call ground effect, said Sky F1's Ted Kravitz. You've created a vacuum, added Anthony Davidson. There's suction to the ground, and you're relying less on the wings to give you rear grip and more on the floor. More changes announced last week. Now it's time to keep your fans updated with more interesting changes made last week to F1 races. More championship points will be given for sprint qualifying in the 2022 Formula One season, and there will be new rules regarding weather-affected races. These changes were announced at the first F1 Commission meeting attended by Mohammed Ben Sulayem, the president of FIA. 3 events will include Friday qualifying and a 100-kilometer, 62-mile Saturday sprint race, rather than just Saturday qualifying after successful trials last year. These will be the Emilia-Romagna GP at Imola, round 4 of 23, the Austrian GP at the Red Bull Ring, round 11, and the Brazilian GP, round 22 at Interlagos. Points will be awarded from finishing positions 1 through 8, the numbers inverse to the position. Last year, only the top 3 were awarded points, again in inverse fashion. It's hoped that this will lead to greater desire among drivers to achieve a higher position in the sprint, thus providing more action to spectators. In some positive news for purists, at least the official statistic for pole position will now be given to the fastest lapper on Friday, not the winner of the sprint. In addition, following the bizarre situation at the 2021 Belgian GP, where a result was declared despite only 2 laps having been completed behind the safety car, the rules around weather-affected races have been amended. No points will be awarded unless at 2 racing laps have been completed without safety car or virtual safety car intervention. If less than 25% of the race distance has been completed when the session is ended, quarter points will be awarded. If between 25% and 50% has been completed, half points will be awarded. And if between 50% and 75% have been completed, 3/4 points will be awarded. Our verdict. F1 has completely reimagined how their race cars look. Between seasons, the sport has gone through the most dramatic set of regulation changes seen in decades. The difference between an F1 car from previous years and the one 2022 is massive. One of the great things about the new regulations is that, at this stage, no one knows. It's incredibly unlikely that Williams, Haas, or Alfa Romeo will find themselves on pole position at the opening race, but picking between the top teams is tough. However, not all 10 teams can get it right and regularly challenge for podiums in 2022. So despite the optimism at this time of the year, for every winner under the new regulations, there will almost certainly be a loser. What's coming for 2022 represents arguably the biggest change in technical rules F1 has ever made. The objectives are simple: to create cars suitable for F1's cost cap era, and that, crucially, are racier on the track. That means they should be less prone to turbulence and therefore able to run closely, creating more overtaking and excitement. That's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think of the 2022 regulation changes in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please like and share it around. Thank you for watching.